Okay, welcome everybody to our October 2024 Community Council meeting. Let's see. We've got a few people on the way.
There's a few outside coming.
All right, should we invite the people outside and tell them we're about to get this show on the road? Yes.
Yeah.
Ready? We're out of the running.
Welcome, y'all.
Just saying.
This is exciting. More people in the room. Who knew? All right. Okay, for those of us joining in person, this is the microphone, so please speak, but it will pick up everything. So if you need to have a gossipy conversation about community council stuff, who doesn't? I might encourage you to leave the room unless you want to capture for eternity on our YouTube
For the warning.
All right.
YouTube forever.
Okay, let's see what I can do about showing a few slides. Excited to see everybody here. See, we can go over a few notes. Let's see, who are our board members who are here today besides myself?
Janice Lee.
Hi, Janice. Thanks for being here.
John Margits.
John Margits is here. Excellent. Our 300 West business representative, etc. How's trash pickup going on 300 West, John?
Still going.
Still
They're
going.
doing that, yeah. Keeping it
excellent.
clean on 300 West.
Keeping it clean on 300 West. And what else do we have to talk about today? Let's see. Oh, I just sent out an email about 3 different volunteer opportunities. We're going to hear about one of them in greater detail today. We have, but in addition to Brick Stacking Day, which will be on Saturday, October 12th, we also have 2 more significant volunteer opportunities. We've got our weekly Ballpark trash collection group. We had a great turnout this week. It was awesome. Thank you, Fit to Recover, for continuing to be such gracious hosts. John, I'm going to let you join the meeting, but you better have your volume turned up. Thank you. We have great turnout, but we realize the days are getting, a little shorter, sunsetting a little earlier. So we're going to send out, or we did send out rather, a survey asking, if you have any interest in participating, please tell us when you're available. And even if you're not available to join us, tell us in the neighborhood where you see some trash. We'd like to be part of that solution and identify some trashy areas of this city neighborhood. So, all right, I'm popping that survey into the chat right now. So if there's any way that you could fill it out, that would be very helpful. Second major volunteer opportunity is from the Central 9th Overpass subgroup, and that is happening tomorrow. The Central 9th Community Council off-ramp subcommittee. You guys are familiar with the off-ramp that divides our neighborhood nicely, right? They're tearing down the fence, they're cleaning it up, and I think eventually the idea will be to paint it, but that opportunity is happening tomorrow from 9:15 a.m. to 1 p.m. So if you got the time, please go and show up in comfy clothes, and I believe many of the materials will be available, and that information is also in the chats. Any other community announcements? Baseball. Baseball in Salt Lake. Mexican Fiesta happening this weekend in Smith's Ballpark. Please participate. It's going to be a great opportunity. Oh no, it's not focusing. Please participate. It will be a great opportunity. Drone show on Saturday night. We're gonna anticipate seeing some DJs on the street in front of the baseball stadium on both Saturday afternoon and Sunday morning. So if you hear some cheerful noise, that is what that is about. And we are excited about that. Anything else that I'm missing? Anyway, lots of great opportunities to volunteer in the neighborhood and get outside, and that's pretty exciting. Okay, I will turn the room microphone, over to our first guest today, who is, I'm really excited to learn about what's happened with the Fifth Ward Meeting House. Kind of swooping in and saving the day, Skylar.
Yeah, doing the best I can. Could I get permission to share my screen?
I would love to give you permission to share your screen.
Just a couple pictures of the building. So I'm Skylar Baird. I'm just a local small developer. Got a few rental properties in the town, and over the past 10 years of owning rental properties, I've come in contact with a lot of people in our community that are struggling, people that are addicted to drugs, people that are homeless and the like. And over the past 10 years or so, I've been able to help a number of those people get off the streets, get them to not be addicted anymore and into permanent housing of their own.
And this is part of work that you do as part of your nonprofit. Is that right, Scott?
This was just me until a few months ago. And then I started a nonprofit because I wanted to make it into something more. And when I was actually in the process of purchasing a property to turn it into affordable housing units, smaller units. And it just so happened that the property next door was vacant. So I called that owner and spoke with them, and they owned another building that was partially demolished. And I'd driven past this building hundreds of times, and I just always thought it was such a cool building and how cool it would be to reutilize it and make it into something more. And so we kind of that developer and I kind of came to some terms of how I could get in and restore the building. And I shared with my dream, my vision of turning it into a place that could be a place of healing, a place of growth. Let me share some of these pictures. So, I don't know if you guys can see this one. Maybe. Oops. There we go. I don't know if we need to highlight that. So this is just a little rendering I have out front of the church right now. So it's rebuilding Fifth Ward. Talks a little bit about the history. The historic building constructed in 1910 has stood as a pillar of the community and learning for over a century. Originally built as a meeting house, Fifth Ward, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The structure was designed in the Tudor Gothic style by architects Cannon and Fetzer. And so Cannon and Fetzer are pretty well renowned architects of 120 years ago. They actually built the West High School, designed the West High School, and a lot of other church buildings in the area. Capacity to hold 300 churchgoers over the years has transformed a place of worship to a concert venue. Famous hosting bands like Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins in the early 90s. The song Smells Like Teen Spirit was played there before it became a hit. Before serving as a Tibetan Buddhist temple and the home of the Red Lotus School of Movement. In 1978, it earned its place in the National Historic Register of Historic Places, cementing its significance in Salt Lake City history. See if I can get this out my way. I can't even read my own sign. Okay. Easter Sunday in 2024, the building suffered a partial demolition, leaving the once majestic structure in disrepair. In response, we founded Salt of the Earth, a nonprofit dedicated to restoring this cherished landmark to its former glory. Our mission is to create a space for growth, light, and knowledge while addressing key issues within our community. Guided by principles of Marcus Aurelius, Thomas Paine, and Jesus Christ, we believe the power of wisdom and love transforms lives. We are seeking your support. 100% of all donations go directly to rebuilding the Fifth Ward Meeting House. Together, we can bring dignity, love, and trust to all those who need it and restore a vital part of our shared history. So for the rebuilding process, like 100% of any donations we receive is going to rebuilding the church. which is great. I'm not taking anything. I'm out there working pretty much every day, myself with other people, and a lot of volunteers have come by. We've had great community support. One of the neighbors donated his Komatsu excavator just today, and we were able to clear away some of those big, beautiful trees that were knocked down. And we've got potential donations coming from Home Depot, potential donations maybe from some other sources. And so there's a lot of momentum going forward. This rendering you see in front of you, this is not how most people remember it, but this is how the picture on the bottom left there, that was the original 1910 look of the structure. And so the rendering you see on the right, that is basically just an exact replica as best that our architects can make to how we want it to be. I thought it was actually pretty cool. I don't know if cool is the right word, but the part that was demolished was just the 1930 edition. So the 1930 edition replaced these stairs and this entryway, and that was the only part that was touched. So it actually fell away from the original building like pretty cleanly. There was, it was like a few bolt holes is all that was, attaching it. And so I thought it was the building wanting to go back to its original roots and the architecture that it originally had. And I think that it's a much more beautiful space. The chapel is going to remain an open chapel. It's going to remain available for community events, for wedding receptions, or what have you. The basement and classrooms, the current design is to turn those into living spaces for people that are coming out of addiction recovery programs. If the city doesn't allow it for whatever reason, they haven't said officially as of yet, but everything says that it's going well. We do have space on the back or side for additional housing, so we're ready to go forward. That's all I got for now. Follow our Instagram, salt.gives, also our website, www.salt.gives, and there's a list of things that we'll be updating of things that we need going forward. So donations or time.
Tell us about this event coming up.
That's right. So on October 12th from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m., we're going to try to salvage as many bricks as possible from the demolition. Basically anything above half a brick size, we're going to be stacking in daily pallets, but stacking in piles neatly so that we can reuse them. And then anything smaller than half the size brick and any of the wood will be thrown away. And so we're going to be, just utilizing as many people as possible to pull those bricks out of that hole. And it's a very, can only do it by hand, because if you did it with a bucket load or anything like that, then you could damage more bricks. And so we're trying to preserve as many as possible.
And I hear you've had special masonry expert, that's not the right term.
Yeah.
Brick experts.
We've had, so let's see if we can show this. So this was the day that we went through the bricks with historic
I
mason.
think we're still seeing you're rebuilding the fifth ward.
Oh, let's see. Give it a second to pop up.
Oh, there we go.
There
Yep.
we go.
I thought those were cool pictures.
Yeah.
But
So-
it really emphasizes that there's work to be done too, in saving all that stuff.
Totally. And John Lambert, he was great. He was recommended to us by Preservation Utah and some other resources. The best that there is, when the city planners heard that John Lambert was the one teaching us how to determine what a good brick is and what a good brick is not, they were thrilled. And so he's helped with many different structures and travels all around the country to help with those type of things.
I would agree with that. He's one of the best.
Love your expertise, Janice. Cool.
Thank you. So this was today, actually. This is what the church looks like as of today. Zion Upholstering, they are the ones that donated this Komatsu bulldozer so that we could move around these giant logs and get them moved out. And it was pretty humbling just to, there's been so much community love and support, and especially the little block that's right around the church. Whether it's the cookies bringing us free cookies and free waters, and there's just a lot of help from the different breweries around, and so it's really humbling to feel the love and support, and it's also pretty invigorating just knowing that that it's going to a good cause. It's going to be a vibrant place for the community, and it's I don't know. I feel a great sense of purpose doing it. So.
Can you tell us a little bit about your fine situation? I know I want to be gracious, but folks have asked about these daily fines that are accruing.
Yeah. $300 a day is what they're currently set at. I've been given some hope that they might be waived or paused at different points in this venture. As of yet, I've yet to receive a firm confirmation of that. So any community involvement is appreciated. We're trying to be nice as possible to stay on the good side of everyone involved. Because I know they have rules for a reason. But I think most everyone can see that there's a spirit and a letter of the law, and the spirit of the law is not to punish someone that's trying to help. And so we're hopeful that the powers that be and the bigger decision makers, even if it took the mayor or whoever it is, that they can see through what we're trying to do and the progress that we've been making to get those fines waived, halted and waived, ideally.
Are the fees continuing until the restoration is complete, or until the plan is in place and construction begins?
Great question.
As of right now, it's until we get the plans approved. So we've worked really, really hard until this point to get all the plans submitted to the city, and they are currently in the city's hands. If they approve them within the next 3 days, then it goes to Landmark, and so it takes 30 days to go to Landmark, and then on November 7th we go to Landmark, and then they have a discussion to see if everyone's happy. Then after that point, if everyone's happy, we can then apply for a building permit, which might take another 30 days. So best case scenario, we're another $20,000 in fines away. Worst case scenario, who knows?
I was just going to say, not only is it on the national register, but it's also a designated landmark site through the city, which requires all that review by the landmark or the historic district commission.
Yeah,
And
they've all been
upwards.
very gracious in coming out, and they're excited about it as well. So we're hopeful. Dennis,
You got another question.
Curious, you said that the addition fell away cleanly. Was it an old building?
You
An
did say
old
fall away. Sorry.
Brick
fell
building.
away from the church.
Just fell over.
This is an old masonry building. What's it look like in an earthquake?
It's a great question. There has been seismic retrofits already. There are steel columns that go up sides and tie in the roof together. We also have a structural engineer who has proposed some additional measures, but those will be part of the building plan after, more or less after the front is facelifted. So, yeah. So there's a question behind as well. I'll call on you. I don't know if I have that authority to.
I think you do.
That's super cool and some of this tape and stuff. I have a question like about the details. Like the details. Do you know, if there's any repercussion for Jordan, because the developer originally, like ordered, demolition of, my understanding at the time was that essentially, he was supposed to be kind of held accountable for his actions. Like you don't have any affiliation with him, or like your subsidiaries like TAG, SNC, with 300 West Holdings or anything. This isn't like something you're shelling to like shirk.
Shirk the
Yeah,
responsibility.
he seems like a shitty guy. Yeah.
My,
Hey, I thought you were gonna run for office.
I don't think so.
Okay.
so I think I mentioned earlier, I met Jordan, I've never met him in person. I got introduced to Jordan when I purchased a property adjacent to another one that he owned elsewhere. And kind of came to my attention that there were other people looking to do different things with the building, up to and including tearing it down completely. And so I was doing anything that I could to say, hey, this is my vision, this is what we want to do. Can you not choose them and choose us? And so for whatever reason, he decided to go with us. As far as I know, his penalty stopped as soon as I took ownership. So
Is he able to like write off, like did he like get preferential rate and like write off sale price or something?
yeah,
This guy kind of had any repercussions for the stuff he did in the city.
I don't know. I know that he did want to make some amends, is what he voiced to me, as far as kind of clearing his name. And so he officially donated the church building to the nonprofit, but we are paying for the land itself, if that makes any sense.
Brother, good evening, everyone. I just wanna, the reason why I just came here was the way you guys speaking and the way I just understood was just totally different. I thought that there was some meeting the city council, and then just talking about splitting like land, and I don't know, is it the best is organizations or you talking about organization?
Yeah, so this is a nonprofit organization that we are using as a vehicle to restore this building and also to help people who are coming back from addiction. So people
What
that
type
are,
of people you're gonna help them? So I have organization, it's a non-profit, I just work on west side of Salt Lake City. Yeah, I'm just helping the refugees and immigrants in the local community, especially on west side of Salt Lake City, North London, goes back with the valley all the way down to Magna.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that's why I just came to find out that I thought there was some meeting like from the city council, that's why I came,
We're
to find out.
we're much lower tier than city council. We're just a community group.
I just want to make sure that's why I just came.
It seems to make sense for nonprofits to network with each other.
Yeah, I just want, good to know that, just want to make sure. Yeah, thank you, I'm leaving here.
okay, well, thank you for coming.
Was that?
Thank you for coming.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And this is it's my push in case if you need it.
Cool.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
it's my business guy.
Oh, thank you very much.
So, brother, how are you? Good to see you, man. All right, guys.
Skylar, I really hate to think that somebody who's as solution oriented as you are is accruing $300 of fines a day. What measures of community support would be helpful for you to, in that regard?
So there's a lot of different agencies involved from Salt Lake City, right? And they all seem to be fairly siloed. And so this is just my own understanding, interpretation. It's like I feel like I get one answer, different answer, different answer, different answer. And now it kind of feels like the real answer needs to come from pretty high up. And so I don't know if that's the mayor. I don't know if that's the head of the civil enforcement. Civil enforcement, I imagine. That would be helpful, at least a good place to start. If we have some letters that we could write to him to say how we feel and if, see where that goes.
And it also might be helpful to know what meetings you're going to. So that, we might be able to provide public input during those discussions.
Sure, yeah,
And I don't know if something like this is actually going to the city council at this, I don't know how involved they are with this. But I think definitely, whatever the fines and everything, I think that might have come from them. So if, were to let us know when you might be going, like to various entities of the city, we might be able to provide, like some public input as well. This is so cool.
Are you gonna be posting that information on your Instagram page, maybe when you're gonna be appearing in front of certain public bodies?
I hadn't thought about it, but it sounds like a great idea, yeah.
Do you know yet if your changes, adjustments are by right? Do you need a zoning change?
Yeah, great question.
No zoning change, the zoning for this parcel is like. Is great, it's like whatever you wanna do, basically, it's D2 currently, I know that they're in the process of consolidating different zones into different stuff, but. Commercial, residential, 100 and something feet, it's like it's very flexible zone. I think the main questions we have won't be able to be answered until we file for the actual building permit in a couple months. So.
And have you been working with Preservation Utah?
Yeah,
Okay.
Brandy and some of the other ladies over there, they've been great and they've put us on with some different resources and they've used their voice to invite people to the cleanup day as well. So they're wonderful.
Okay, I've got a couple questions coming in online.
Sure.
Doug Flagler, who is chair of the Central Ninth Community Council, would like to know if you are committed to not selling the property back to either Jordan or TAG SLC or any other entity affiliated with Jordan.
Yeah, it's not a thing. So the only way that would happen is if we like defaulted on our note or something, I guess, but.
So another reason
To
not have you accrue fines, in other words.
Yeah.
All righty, and we've also got a question from Fraser Nelson, and she'd like to know how many people will reside in the building and how long do you anticipate their either their lease or their stay to be?
Yeah, so. The exact number of units, I like to have, so I have other rental properties, and I think having your own bathroom is very important. I know a lot of these type of facilities, they share a lot of different amenities, but we would be making them so that they have a small kitchenette, bathroom, and their own separate living area. And so we're probably looking at 20 to 30 units, which would be 20 to 30 individuals. And my vision is anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. It's kind of that ballpark to try to help them make sure they get a stable job. They have enough money saved up to have, move into another long-term facility and just to give them a little bit more transition time to, really cement their progress and continue on. It's kind of can be a little bit abrupt coming right out of the recovery place and being on your own. And so having a little bit more structure and having a little bit more life goals and being around like-minded people that want to improve, I think is going to be good.
Kevin, welcome Kevin, fellow board member.
As a human thing, so I take from it. You're having an involvement, let's volunteer, right? Come help do this. I assume ongoing you're getting volunteers. You gotta be accurate.
Yeah.
That's a good. So have you thought about perhaps community service hours like embracing the justice court, that open bishop role, the district court, because they hand out community service hours like water. And maybe going to treatment centers where people are at residential treatment centers, they have to do community service hours. In fact, as part of the moral recognition treatment. They have to do a certain number of treatment hours and say, hey, we've got this project, let's here to do this. That might give you a huge influx of volunteers.
That I haven't thought of most of those, so if you have a list of all those things you just mentioned, or I'll watch back the video later, but yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, there's so much stuff to do. Some of the things like exterior brick cleaning, John recommended to not have volunteers do. But other things internally, yeah, there's an abundant amount of things to do.
A great many people, especially on your website, a great many people in recovery find themselves in trade, and so you have these, let's say, masons, people,
That's a great point.
painters, you have people that are engaged, they find easier employment in construction trades, and so you find people who have these skills, and they still have to provide a certain number of community service hours. Often what happens is they find themselves sitting outside a treatment facility picking up cigarette butts, which is not meaningful in any sense. Well, it is, sure, but it's less meaningful. So if you can offer something more meaningful and maybe spread out, that might be time to invest in.
I love that. Yeah, that's fantastic. And I also, in the immediate future, intend to anybody that helps volunteer or donate, add their names, first name, last initial, or something to the website, and then once the church is complete, to have some sort of plaque made of every person that's helped. So I think that's meaningful too.
One more, I just not out there, kind of purchase it. If I remember correctly, they stopped this program. Solid PD has a program where if you, John will figure it out. That's probably not something correct, but I don't want to select videos. But they, something about if you do some community service, they'll give you a token, and so they give them to the business owners to give to people who are homeless, et cetera, to get them, and then if you see them doing something, you can give them that token, so you might be able to get some tokens from Solid PD, and they can redeem those tokens for like $5 gift card or whatever.
Huh.
And
I think John might know more about the current status of that program than anybody, but I understand that with the reorganization of the upper tiers of the Salt Lake Police Department, the elimination of the captain position, and now the new commander position, that there have been some decisions made about Salt Lake City police officers acting in less of a social worker type role. And so I'm not given the changes in ranks and management. I'm not sure if that program will continue.
I didn't brush on. All I would say is refer everyone back to Sergeant Nate Heiser.
Yeah,
That's what I would say. So,
we can connect you, but he's a sergeant involved in homeless resource centers. And he's a great guy to work with.
really good.
Yeah.
if you can't waive your funds, so that's not something we do. But if you can get
We
$10,000
could.
in labor. Offset that.
But we could write a letter.
We can request that.
We can request nicely.
But again, you can offset that by reducing your costs elsewhere.
And then I just want to, it seems like there's still questions about relationship between Jordan and I, like outside of the loan on the building, there's no connection, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got
My
other
my
work.
motives are pure, I promise you. It's a, it's a financial risk. Truthfully, I have a deal with God where 10% of my apartment units are dedicated towards helping people. And so if I want to continue to grow, then I need to grow this side of my business as well, I guess.
Another community partner that I think you'll want to work with is Fit to Recover, and they're headquartered in our neighborhood, if you're familiar with that organization.
I saw them at the recovery event,
Yeah,
so I
that
met
makes
some of their volunteers with it, and I was actually hoping to connect with them more because it would be really cool to be able to let our residents go over there and work out.
They also, one of their 4 pillars is community service, and so they've helped us out a lot and let us meet there, and they're a great group.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds like we could have a lot of help, so that's great. And I think most of that, there'll be some of that building the front, but I imagine a lot more of that will be internally. Because there's a lot of vandalism. There's some places where fires have been started. There's some, but all the electrical's missing. Plumbing does not operate. Yeah, there's a lot of artwork inside. Yeah. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Would folks in this room be interested in, do we have a consensus in offering a letter of support to suggest that it would be appropriate that his daily fines be waived?
Like, so my understanding is that the city council, there was like a law, there's some kind of rule in the books that said that you had these fines, and then they were about to pass a stricter version of that law for historical buildings, and then in between, like, and before they passed that, your Atkins ordered the demolition of the building, and then said he wasn't leaving the building once. And then they couldn't retroactively change the rules, but it sounds like you got caught up on the stricter end of the next thing. Is like what it kind of sounds like. Yes, and then, yeah, that is like very like intriguing, because like essentially, and I was curious, like you said that people were interested in buying it to tear it down, and my understanding is that like you couldn't do it for the buildings, that it had to be like made whole before anything could be further done with it, and there was like deep like restrictions on like what there should be done with the property until it was profitable. That was like part of the new stricter laws that they were, restricted rules that they were trying to enact, like some kind of 50-year essentially development lockout. If it were.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I just know that if you really wanted to pay an engineer to say this building is uninhabitable, I'm sure you can find one to do so. So that's not what I'm doing, obviously. I specifically bought it so that that would not happen. And so I'm just saying that it was something that I could see happen.
I've seen that episode of The Wire.
There we go. And I don't know who would have done it. And there was a lot of other uses that people wanted to change it to as well. But I had a really strong feeling towards this use.
Are you, my recollection, I think remembers better, is that there was a nonprofit that was like in discussions with Jordan right before the demolition about securing the parcel of land and like turning it into some kind of community thing. Does anyone remember it? Or like, are you affiliated with it?
Not affiliated with them. I saw a news story, saw a story somewhere that there was at least that group and some other groups that were interested in it.
So that's a different group. It's cool.
I guess I would like to have a better understanding of what it is that you are responsible for. Before, I don't know.
Before committing to wanting to waive fines.
Right.
I see.
Responsible to rebuild the face of the church, as you see these stairs here, to rebuild those, and this little piece over here. That is the main contention with the city right now.
I mean, clearly currently fines are accruing, but you're not paying.
Correct.
So may I suggest that you could wait until see how your work develops, and then assuming, when the
Yeah, that was kind of my
due, then you guys can put out a pitch to have them all waived at once.
That was my plan. Today, after meeting with one of the enforcement officers, he said that he might speak to his higher ups and see what they could do. But a standard protocol would be after fines reach a certain amount that goes to small claims court. So that might happen before the property's finished.
That's why I'm interested in, thinking about what could we do to,
Preempt that.
yeah, good word, thank you.
It just seems like the previous owner was held responsible for a long list of items that I think city council came up with after they demolished it. So I would, be interested as to what applies to you.
Yeah, as far as the things that I have is like I need to have a fence around the property. I need to get plans to rebuild the property and get plans approved and then start building on it. That's the basics of it. We're gonna do.
Do you want to put a pin in it and think and keep thinking about it for later, and we can look up those specifics and see if we can move forward? Okay,
I would feel better with that.
all right. Janice is our planning expert, having actually been an employed planner.
Sweet.
And for the record, I mean, I'm in support of writing something positive. I sense a lot of good of what you're trying to do here. I'm thinking, gosh, let's keep that momentum going.
Yeah, it's not like thinking of any of.
Oh, I don't want you to believe that
No, no, no,
I'm
no.
not,
Yeah,
but I just
yeah.
kind of want to nail down the specifics.
Yeah, which is fine. We totally understand. Fine.
All right, well. Any further questions? I'm not seeing any online, but we really appreciate you coming to taking the time to talk to us about this project. If you can't, there's a lot of community interest in seeing this resolved in a positive way like you're proposing.
Yeah.
So, my understanding of and I guess this might be something to discuss with city council, I'm not exactly sure the details, there's that there is like some flexibility for the grace period before lines start accruing. And that is kind of like, it wasn't a hard one, it was like essentially, it's like they need like to provide like a amount of time that allows for like a good faith effort. Or something like to that degree, yeah, so they began as soon as you took ownership of the property, yeah, so that could be a potential angle if you wanted to go that route.
I was under that understanding at the beginning as
Yeah.
well, but if I'm honest, I haven't even looked at the fines because I'm afraid of what they are.
That's a good time.
Right?
Yeah, because it could be, you only need like 2 months, you know, like, no, that seems like that could potentially be. Like, I don't exactly know if the prior owner had to pay any fines.
As far as I know, he was paying on them actively. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, so that could be a potential thing, it's like the wording, because it's not, like, my understanding is that it wasn't like, it's like a number of days, that's the way, it's like appropriate time, it's. Since they're not all intentional. What's your situation is super different. We're literally infigured. And it's cool to see people who really care about.
All right,
Because I have been given much, I too must give.
I think you can anticipate further support from us if that's something that you're interested in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for doing the work.
Yeah.
Sounds substantial.
It was pretty heartbreaking.
You guys okay if I go put my kids to bed?
We are.
I've got 4 children and they are missing me. Thank you all for joining virtually as well.
All right. Let's learn about something we can vote on. Who's here from the county
I'm
manager?
here from the county.
Okay.
Catherine Fife,
Yes.
I'm here and do you have the slides, Amy? Or
I do have some slides. You are not Brad.
I am not Brad.
You are not Arlen Bradshaw either.
I am not Carolyn Bradshaw.
We were told that Arlen Bradshaw were coming tonight.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint.
That is okay.
We've got the C team here today, but I have I'll do my best to represent. I have been giving a lot of presentations with Brad and Councilmember.
Thank you.
Oh, I have one actually.
And I don't know, Amy, I mean, I'm not online, so I don't think people need to see me as long as they can see the slides.
Yes, I'm pulling them up.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, Councilmember Bradshaw couldn't be here today, but we've been presenting together several community councils and city councils and stakeholder groups, so definitely if you have questions or want follow-up that I can't help with tonight, I can get some follow-up from them. Also happy to point you to a website where there's a lot of information. But I'm really heavily involved in this project and want to make sure that everybody is well educated leading up to the elections, make some good decisions on the ballot. There's a lot on the ballot, and so I appreciate the opportunity to share with people who want to be educated, and so it's great.
Okay, they're up there, wonderful, so we can all, I hope, follow along and be able to.
Thank you. Maybe I'll just come close to you so you can switch as I go. And that website, just to start, the website is where all this information is, including these slides. So if you would like to have a copy of these slides, the bond language, the one pager, and also there's some information on the pros, the cons, the rebuttals on the bond. It's all there. So a plethora of information there on that website.
A lot of stuff on the ballot. Got this, I hear a ballot's gonna be 2 pages front and back.
It is,
So
yes, it's
but-
gonna take some dedication to get through it all.
it's so exciting. People are gonna be able to get educated
Yes,
about what is on that 2-page ballot.
yes. All right, you can go to the next slide and just, starting off, we'll get right into it. Salt Lake County is moving a bond question to the public to finance significant countywide criminal justice needs and improvements. And the biggest and most important thing to start off with is Salt Lake County would like to consolidate and improve our county jail. So just, I think it's really important to note that Salt Lake County hasn't added 1 new jail bed to our jail since 2001. But population has increased. Our jail is operating at capacity now, constantly. We operate out of 2 facilities. Many of you may know that. If you don't know that, we have the Oxbow facility, and then we have the Adult Detention Center, and that's on 3415 South 900 West. So we're proposing to consolidate the 2, really for to increase our rehabilitation services and our mental health resources. We want to increase the number of jail beds. We want to be more efficient, but we want to infuse our human services, treatment, better solutions to help people when they do re-enter, when they serve their time and they go back to the community. We want to make sure they're on a path to success. We also need to make sure we're able to keep people. We need, like, our capacity, that we have more capacity. And we want to make sure that not only can we deal with the population growth we've seen, but the population growth that we anticipate in the coming years. So with that, what we do is close Oxbow. We decommission Oxbow. We transfer those inmates over to an expanded jail. And we, that would really help with some efficiencies, increase our safety issues, and operate and really address some operational inefficiencies. There's about 20 transports back and forth between those 2 facilities each day. Next slide, please. So in addition to really expanding our adult detention center, we also want to create a justice and accountability center. So this building facility would be a cost-effective alternative to jail for those low-level offenders. So the folks that are not staying in jail, the ones that are booked and released, you guys know who I'm talking about. The ones that seem to be falling through the cracks, that everyone's like, we need to do something different. We need to do something. This is an alternative really to help really be a place where individuals can be referred to instead of going into the justice system. It also will work really well with our the Huntsman Receiving Center that is coming online. Oh, and we have Brad here. So. Hi, Brad. So you all may know that the Huntsman Crisis Receiving Center is coming online right now off of 33rd, and individual law enforcement who's finding somebody who's in crisis, can go and take them to that receiving center. We want to make sure that we're working with our behavioral health specialists to say, hey, let's stabilize this individual. Let's determine, do they need to go to jail? Did they commit a crime? Is this where they need to go? Or do they need to stabilize further? And do we need to connect them with the Justice and Accountability Center and really stop getting them more involved with our justice system? So we're trying to think about, better ways to help people and keep them from getting more infused into our justice system if they do not, if we can at all stop that. It will be connected with that criminal justice system. If you think about it, it's really for those lowest level offenders. But it will be opportunities to work with those who are in pretrial, who don't have housing. It'll be an opportunity to work with our justice system and judges who, we look for opportunities and alternative for sentencing. So it's going to be a nice additive to our justice system in the county. Its location is to be determined, but we do think it would be really valuable to have it really close to our adult detention center. Next slide, please. So really this bond is looked at as an investment in community and public safety. We think it will reduce crime, improve accountability, better connect people with resources, break that cycle of those repeat offenders, really help to really be more fiscally and effective and fiscally conservative and responsible. And it's part of the larger plan. So Salt Lake County, I'm sorry.
I have questions, but I want to tell you about it's really
That's okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to know, you said you feel it would be beneficial out next to the jail. Why?
Because so it's a way that they're low level offenders. So we want to make sure if they need to, if they're criminals and we're doing something that they need to go into jail, so we see it like a spectrum of a criminal justice system, right? So it's like, okay, yeah, like this, we need to make sure that you're held accountable, like the punishment that's the crime, and that if the crime you need to be held more accountable, then you're right there and can be connected with the jail.
Proximity doesn't seem like it would make much difference there. In fact, arguably, we don't want proximity with low-level offenders, high-level offenders, because of that age. And then
Not in the same facility, yeah.
You do have risk factors where you've got the mental resource center, which essentially is it markets to sex offenders, it markets to some of the less desirable males, high level offenders. And if you were to put low level offenders right there, there's drugs all up and down that street. If you're driven there, we're looking at putting the Huntsman Mental Health Institute's
Crisis Receiving Center.
Receiving center, which again, can be high acuity individuals, probably many criminal justice involved. And it seems like it would be counterproductive to put low level offenders who just need to kind of reorient and get back.
Stabilize.
Right next to them. We got cars, you can drive them to jail.
Do you mind if I jump in?
I would love, Representative Steve Rantner, if you would jump in.
Oh, I don't want to. I was talking to Arlen last night about this, because a lot of questions about what the county is trying to do with what they're calling JAC, right? The Justice and Accountability Center. My understanding is that it's transitional. So I'm a public defender in my practice. A lot of like this cycle is like, we're really good at moving people around, good at people like arresting people over here on Major Street, putting them in South Salt Lake in the ADC for 48 hours, and then releasing them to the street in South Salt Lake 3 o'clock in the morning. The trick is trying to create an intervention system when people transition out of incarceration, with a large focus on my understanding is mental health. And like, don't let me misquote any of this project, but this is how I understand it. I'm not trying to campaign this or anything. And so the issue is like a lot of people are getting transitioned into treatment. There needs to be an intermediary as they transition out. So that way you're just not transitioned into the street. You're transitioned out of jail into some gray area. So it's not that like they're trying to taint the waters by combining it. They're trying to combine resources so that way people just don't wind up out in South Salt Lake on, was it 33rd South? That there's this catch, so that way people can transition as beds through a specific resource center open up, or if they need to kind of have extended stay before they get a voucher, et cetera, et cetera. That's my understanding of the functionality of the JAC and why it's associated with the
The jail, sorry.
So-
That's it.
Do beds of the resources.
Yes.
I appreciate that you know your acronym soup, but if you could use fewer of them.
I'm sorry, yes, I will let you stop. I hate it when other people use alphabet soup with me and I'm terrible with it myself. So please catch me when I start, just throwing spaghetti at folks.
I've seen this presentation before and I just feel like there may be other people who don't know the acronym.
I think everybody, does. So thanks for calling it out.
Another component of this also is just going to be shared staffing, so they're going to be the health professions and allowing this, if there are like some people who have. That there might be
there, this
potentially there, so that they could, so that you could still have access to same staff that work. Which is potentially, right, that's not most, but having it closely located allows us the operation, logistical flexibility to have. Say key staff members without having to worry about that type of scheduling, still be able to work with people if they have periods where they do need to go into the main facility or back out and transition. So they can still do it.
So the location has not been determined yet, so I do want to just say that as well. It's just, and actually, I think making sure that all things are considered is really important. So just want to be sure that you know that not a location hasn't been determined, but we do see synergy between the crisis receiving center and the Justice Accountability Center as well, because if somebody comes in a crisis and they just need stabilization in their housing and secure, that's a great pathway instead of straight to the streets as well. So we want it to be, it will be a sort of secure facility, and it will have some mental health staff on site. It will also include 16 residential treatment beds. And when we looked at the entire system and looked at gaps within our system, the largest gap identified was residential treatment for mental health issues. And so adding 16 beds with that Justice and Accountability Center is important. And Grant, you made me just want to clarify too, when in the jail, expanded jail, we're going to have 100 beds that are community correction step down beds. So very similar. It's almost like this, step down in jail. You're in those traditional jail beds. And right now we have 88 mental health beds in our current jail. And we have seen an increase in people who have committed crimes, who are being held accountable, who need some mental health support. And we propose in this expansion to expand it to 180 mental health beds. So more, therapeutic justice support, and then 100 in the jail, 100 step down beds. So people can go out on treatment, education, to get housing, to get their paperwork, to get housing, or anything, education. So that's where we're helping out with that reentry, as soon as we can, while they're serving time. And then the other one is the JAC. So it's kind of like this step down all the way through the JAC into the community, really being hopefully successful and not just book and release like we're seeing. So that's what to help with that. So hopefully that helps clarify.
No, and I appreciate the clarification too, because I'm still learning. There's a lot to it, but I appreciate how well thought out this proposal is.
Yeah.
I have a simple question. I want to read your presentation.
Yeah, you're good.
I have to presume, because this is kind of how we do business these days, that you're collaborating instead of siloing, coming up with
Love it.
by yourselves.
Yeah.
Is there some board or something that is open to the public to participate in? Because I love you.
Absolutely. So that was the piece right before this great discussion, which I love, and we can continue, is just talking about how this is a part of a lot of planning, and especially at the county level, but then also with our partners within our areas of expertise with the behavioral health experts, community folks who are committed, the state municipalities as well, to make sure that this is fitting within their plans, because a lot of people are working on different things, including the state. They're working on identifying more year-round shelter beds. That's not this, but we want to make sure we're collaborating and working with them so that that everything is successful and kind of fits more comprehensively to serve our community better. So we want to do that.
Just opened the mental health community treatment center, correct?
I'm sorry.
You know that last week the state just opened the mental health community treatment center with 60 beds.
So we need more, right? Because as we know that there's
criminal justice involved, so it's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
There's collaboration
There is. So a year ago, the governor and Mayor Wilson, Mayor Mendenhall, and Wayne Niederhauser got together and all said, this is what we're working on. And the state indicated, including their mental health treatment beds as well. So everybody is looking at what they said, this is what we want to do. Mayor Wilson said, I'm going to come up with an action plan, a 5-year action plan. That's my commitment. And she did. In July, she presented that plan to the community, and part of it includes this bond. There are more pieces as well, and I'll show you just real briefly, because really tonight we're talking about the bond, but there's other pieces that are going to be happening regardless of if the bond passes or not. And certainly we want input from anybody who wants to be at the table. There will be different meetings, different opportunities and different components of the plan, including the bond. So if you want to be a part of it, happy to include you for sure.
Where is that scheduled?
I'm sorry.
Where will that schedule be posted?
As soon as, okay, so I'll go over the timeline.
Where is the entry doors?
Yeah, on the website. That website? Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
see you with that.
Yes, so it's the SLCO, and that's gonna be at the end as well, and it's also on the one pager that you have is the website. And what we'll go into is if, you know, election day, so ballots will hit your mailboxes October 15th, then we have election day. And if this passes, we immediately go into our really intense planning and execution phase of this. And so that's when more meetings, planning, and bringing in stakeholders is going to happen. So a better schedule of that planning phase will happen when we know if the bond is moving forward. Okay. And I can give you my contact information as well. So we can tap into, so if I know where your areas of expertise are, I can point you in the right way too. Talking is great.
I have this is one. And maybe our incoming representative already knows all the answers to these questions, but back when Mayor Eric Adams was not the figure that he is currently, something that was really hotly discussed was when it is appropriate to involuntarily commit somebody. And I'm a little curious about the legality of having somebody in a space that is not jail, but is what does Jack stand for again? The Justice and Accountability Center. Can you talk a little bit about how this would work from a civil rights perspective?
Yes, we can't hold anybody against their will. They're not under the sheriff's supervision.
Right.
But we work to stabilize them with mental health, behavioral health experts who can really make sure they're stabilized. And what we've learned and what we know from people who are experts in this space is once people are stabilized, once people are getting the help they need and on a path to success, they want to stay, they want to be successful. There are opportunities, if they're not, to better connect them with the actual criminal, like with the actual jail if needed.
Mm-hmm.
So there are consequences to our behavior, and if we're breaking the law, we want to hold people accountable. If they need help and support, we want to give them the help and support that they need for their behavioral health issues. So it's connecting them in a stabilization way, handing them off to long-term success. The Jack is not a long-term housing facility or anything like that. It's infused with stabilization experts and supports. Does that help answer your question a little bit?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so back to the slides, and love it. We'll keep the questions and discussion coming. You can go to the next slide. No, you're good. You're great. It's perfect. So let's talk some money and the taxpayer savings. So right now, it costs per day per person $136. The Justice and Accountability Center with our estimated operations budget now will cost $75 a day per person. So there's going to be a savings of better serving individuals in the Justice and Accountability Center. So it's less there. And I just want to talk about the support. The mayor made the proposal to the council over many weeks. There was a lot of really great discussion looking at all parts of it. But in the end, they voted 8-1 in a bipartisan fashion to move it to the voters to say, we want our voters of the county to have a say in this. And so then what the council members, the mayor and her leader, all of her leadership team has been going out and talking and educating as many folks as we can, because this is an important thing that we want to make sure folks have the opportunity to educate themselves on. We have a lot of support by elected officials at every level of government. and have really seen some great, I mean, there's pieces like we know that our county jail needs to be helped. That Oxbow jail, the value of the actual Oxbow facility is actually at or less than the amount of money that is needed to actually deal with the deferred maintenance issues. So it is really its lifespan is not long, and so we need to do something about that. And we really feel like this is an opportunity to address some of the issues that have been really happening in our community that I know you are all concerned about. And certainly, you know, we are concerned about at the county as well. Next slide.
Before you move on, actually, there was one of the things I wanted to point out about this slide. So the cost for the jail, that 136 number, that's just the average cost for someone to occupy that space there. It does not include if anyone needs a mental health treatment component there. Whereas the Jack number, the Justice Accountability Center number, does include the holistic overhead cost for that. So it is almost half as expensive to house and treat somebody in the Jack than it is just to house them in the jail.
Thank you, Brad. So here's the numbers, and here just you can see on that left-hand side, you can see little Oxbow, and then we have the adult detention center as it is, and we're proposing to expand that. And you can see we have little components of the general expanded beds, mental health, and that community corrections, or that's those step-down beds. And then the Justice and Accountability Center there with those 300 beds, 16 of them being residential treatment. And you can see the cost breakdown here. Want to point out that yes, it is a $507 million bond. Thanks to our county council who've been really, fiscally responsible. They've set aside $100 million, really thinking, they wanted to do what they could to make sure that we're putting the lowest amount towards taxpayers. And also this bond is up to this amount. So continuing the county council, as you I maybe know, they're really, really fiscally conservative and want to look at every opportunity to reduce the costs and to bring other resources to bear. So we'll always look at, having it come in at less than that 507 million if possible. What this means to our residents are based on an average property value in Salt Lake County today is $602,000. We can talk, that's a different issue, that amount, but that impact for somebody in a house of that cost is $4.91 a month. And to businesses, it's right there at $8.93 a month. So that's where the numbers shake out. So just as I mentioned, Mayor Wilson put together this comprehensive plan looking at where's the county's responsibility, where's our authority, where do we have resources to really address some of the issues we're facing in our community. So all of these areas are pieces of the plan, and this bond really focuses on building that Justice and Accountability Center and improving and expanding our jail, the ADC, and with that increased mental health unit on those beds. So there we're doing more. We have a goal at the Salt Lake County, not in the bond, to bring on 1,000 housing units in 5 years. We know, and as was appropriately said, that the JAC, the Justice and Accountability Center, is short-term. It's a stabilization place. We need that, and then where they go if they don't have stable housing, and we need to make sure we're bringing some online. We know that 1,000 units is not going to solve everything, but we know that it's what Salt Lake County can do as part of the plan. And again, working with our state and other partners who are bringing housing online. The gentleman who said he's bringing housing, everybody, whoever's bringing housing online, we know we need more, and we need more that has supports. We need housing with the right supports, especially those who are experiencing, having behavioral health, mental health, substance use issues. So that's part of that. We also, I do want to point out this, support the drug enforcement. We know we have a drug crisis. We know there's too much fentanyl on the streets. And so we're committed as part of the plan to bring on 10 additional DEA agents, drug enforcement agents to the community over the next 5 years. We want to do everything we can to get drugs off the streets and to hold drug dealers responsible. So here's the timeline. We kind of alluded to it. We do have a public hearing next week. We had a public hearing in September. We've talked about, the plan, election day, and then again, we'll work diligently to plan and operationalize if the voters do approve this on election day. That's it. So here now you see Brad's contact info. You can reach out to him. There's his phone number, his email, and again, that website. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to him. And we're here if you have any other questions or discussion or thoughts. Love to hear them. And just thank you for your time today. Thank you for being engaged in your community and educating yourselves. And, please feel free to send others to the website as well to help as they're trying to make a decision best for them on the ballot. Thank you.
Best way to reach me is through email, but give me a couple of days to get back to you. I opened up my inboxes from that 566 unread email, so I am getting through them, but it's usually like a 3-day turnaround. But I will get back to you.
I'm sorry for your loss, Brad.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
Just a question, the bond, what is it a bond on property tax then? Is that what it is?
It's a general obligation bond will be issued in 2 tranches. It was structured in a way that minimized, so we're looking at the developments and the issuance of the debt. So that we could do something in the macro that minimizes the amount of interest that we're allowed to pay for this. And also it's designed so that I think just in many ways, we do also have the ability to refinance as interest rates change as well. So we have a lot of different things to try to minimize the fiscal impact to voters.
How many years is the bond?
Will not to exceed 21. Okay. We can back up one slide. So I think that's good. And the one note on that is that it's not saying that construction will be done 18 to 24 months from that. We'll begin work on the broader project, and then the construction time from when the plans are finalized and everything will be 18 to 24 months after that. So we're not saying 2 years after January 2025 will be online. I would say it'll be done by January 2025.
So does that mean like you haven't met with engineers to create, like you have like a floor plan, is there like a CAD someplace, like the new facility?
None of that's because all of those expenses would be things that we'd have to bear and that'd be putting the cart before the horse because there's no location.
There's no location yet.
That would, and you'd have to, find a place to build it because you can't knock down a jail.
Well, we're expanding the current adult detention
So-
center. So we're expanding the one on 33rd South.
Okay,
So we're proposing to decommission Oxbow and expand the existing,
got it.
and then we'll build the justice and accountability separate. Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you.
Where we don't know the location is the Justice and Accountability Center. We do know we will expand the current jail where it is. Yeah. You have.
So this is just like a general question. It's that does it make sense, like, it's like a bigger, like, philosophical, societal question, like, do we want to tie the number of beds, like, the number of jail cells to population? Doesn't that have like, kind of like, I don't know, negative connotations, like, the assumptions that there is a number of people, regardless of the population size, that are going to be incarcerated, regardless of societal improvements or whatever. Yes, I was just wondering, like, it seems like it's like a good thing that we haven't had much of beds with the 300,000 population. I just think your take on that. Yeah, it's kind of curious about that.
Yeah, so I'm not the expert
Yeah.
that did those numbers, but I know that we did work with consultants that really helped with those planning and then identifying those numbers of what is needed. We also know that our jail is at capacity, and we often have to do overcrowding releases. And so those are issues that were also taken into consideration. We want to make sure that, we know now that, we need more jail beds today and know that our population is going to increase. So while I can't speak, and I don't know if Brad can, to what the consultant said and the experts on that, there was definitely an informed expert perspective that went into that. Yeah.
This is like that because it's like for $50,000 a person a year. That's just under area meeting. So, like, some area, you know, like,
Yeah.
so that's kind of a, I don't know, it's just like a. Yeah. it's just
Yeah.
like a
And
weird thing, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point. I mean, we
Yeah.
definitely want to make sure that we have jail beds to serve the purpose that jail beds should serve.
Yeah.
We also want to make sure we're not using jail beds for people who shouldn't be in them. And so I think that's really where the Justice and Accountability Center was, why that was proposed, and also the increased therapeutic justice that is going to be infused in the expanded jail beds. So when we really want to keep people out of there, and especially the revolving door, but we do want our communities to be safe, and we do want to hold people accountable that need to be held accountable. So it's this, you know, it's. Mhm.
Do you know, do you happen to know, or is this information? Like the number of jail beds that are currently like utilized by people that that like maybe like what it should be in this new type of justice and accountability setting, you know, so it's essentially like what the margin of relief jail bed numbers would be, like by introducing this lower tier, lower security type of service.
Yeah, we have some numbers that help lead to the proposal of what these are. And I don't have those right with me, but happy to follow up with you if you'd like on what those are. We did look at, actually, if any of you are interested, we do have a jail dashboard, so you can see at any point in time, every day, the number of inmates and some demographics around those who are in jail. So obviously our jail population changes, but we can talk about what charges people were booked on, and look at different things like that. And we looked at inmates and history and charges and all of that. That was definitely data that went into looking at the expansion and the beds needed in the future too. Also, the 300 beds in the Justice and Accountability Center.
Especially as the consulting firm you use for what type of projects do they do? You're with like the specific, like are they specifically focused? Like, cause they saying if no one ever got in trouble for hosting the consultants.
Well, yeah.
Like that's kind of what people have.
Yeah, so, and it was a consultant really focusing on the jail, and then we also looked at a lot of other experts, including our behavioral health experts here within the county. We went and visited community correction centers in other states. We went and saw, maybe you've heard about the Miami model. We had cohorts going out to Miami. We've looked at best practices and evidence-based kind of therapeutic justice all over. Did some research, brought in, had conversations in addition to our conversations with the consultants, and that really all informed the plan. So it wasn't just consultants, but the consultants who work on justice and criminal justice and jail reform and therapeutic jails was one of the main stakeholders that really looked at helping with these numbers.
These are the best practices that are done in the United States, right? They're not like there are countries that have like considerably less incarceration percent.
Yeah, we didn't visit any in other countries, but definitely looking at research from other countries in addition to other states, but visited other states and communities that are like ours. Yeah. Yeah. Brad, do you know if our information on any of the kind of the data that led up to this is on our website at all?
I don't know, I'll have to check, but if it isn't, we can certainly work on certain.
Yeah. Because we did look at jail population. I mean, we do have other numbers on that and all of that, but it just wasn't in the slideshow.
So I understand the US is a highly incarcerated country, especially. And so it's like if you're baseline with other US things, it's like maybe setting the bar a little bit.
Yeah, the 40% of the world's incarcerated.
We are, and so unfortunately, as public employees, we are also limited on the types of things that we can advocate for. Those are decisions that have to be left to our bosses who are elected. So some of the answers that we can get are concerned with that, but the broader goal behind this plan was to decrease recidivism because it does not benefit us to have people unnecessarily incarcerated and offering currently with the overcrowding I mean, in almost every single county in the United States, the county jail is going to be your number one provider of mental health, which I think might this is an appropriate or acceptable situation. And so if you're crowded, there are the easy answer is not that, unfortunately, we identify 120 people who would, if we have the jack today, would just be transferred out of jail because of jack. But the real answer is often that there is not space for people who need some sort of mental health or crisis help. It's needed there. And the goal of this is to start being able to provide that.
Just a bit of a perspective for a second. It's not a condemnation of a society that our criminal justice system is a matter of mental health. It's actually a great testament to our criminal justice system. That when we find people who recognize, hey, maybe you don't need to be punished, and we're addressing a matter that the community hasn't addressed.
Yeah, so specifically around the trip, it's like.
They're set aside, you're saying, we could try to solve this and help you because nobody else would do it. I don't know if we do understand. How are you determining what is plan? What measurement are you planning to utilize to identify low risk offenders? Are you utilizing R and CMI? What are you utilizing?
Acronym soup.
Well, measurements are made by acronym. What is the acronym? What is the measurement that you're attempting to utilize to identify who is an appropriate person for this intervention? Because there should be some evidence-based measurement versus just, hey, I got this guy.
Yeah, so it's working with our law enforcement, our judges, those who are part of our criminal justice system to determine, right now it's, I think there's folks here in this room who have called the police and they've said, there's nothing I can do. They're not going to be held. Those would be individuals who would probably be seen as your low level offenders.
So it'll be based on the type of offense. It won't be based on an assessment of the individual.
So that's going to be in the planning phase and all of those issues. We're also going to work really closely with the Mental Health Receiving Center to really assess individuals to see are they doing this because they have a mental health crisis or they're on substance use right now and we need to just stabilize them. What are the underlying issues with individuals? Are they high risk so there are assessments that do look at the risk level and if they should be in a secure facility and not let out versus otherwise. So yeah, all of that will be a part of it for sure.
Usually lacking housing will keep you moving. Substance abuse will actually increase your level of risk of many of the assessments that exist. So you may find that it's not necessarily low risk offenders, but it might be useful to know how your sexual fingers in. It might be useful to identify that instead of I want low risk offenders, I want offenders that this intervention may benefit, that this intervention actually would be appropriate for. Substance abuse, we're offering substance abuse. Having mental health, look at so we've got 16 beds for having mental health. You may be an intensive risk individual, but using that responsivity factor, like I'm pretty familiar with the Alzheimer's, talk about that. Using that responsivity factor of mental health, you can address that instead of addressing the criminogenic factor of the nature of the crimes you commit.
Yeah, you're way smarter about that than I am. So definitely people who are working on that will make sure that those assessments are part of it. And certainly we want to make sure we have that right as we look to.
Devil's in the details. If you're going to spend $500 million, I'd really like to see a comprehensive plan that has those things in there.
Yeah.
They have to get reelected first.
That is a very fair point, but and also, so the county hasn't done a tax increase for our general fund, which is what we use for things for the salaries and everything for 4 years. And there are a lot of things we have to do. I'm not trying to shirk the work, but it wouldn't be a prudent use of taxpayer funds for our time to be spent building out the details of this model to the degree that you're speaking about prior to having this passed.
Right.
That you're talking about.
That's right.
So essentially we're talking about something and now we're going into the operational details of something that's there.
Who's it going to serve? I think that's quite key and that's very germane to should you pay for it.
That's
I'm not wrong about that.
no, I'm not trying to challenge.
So what I'm asking is, what measurements are you going to use to identify who you're going to serve? And I think that should be identified before you ask taxpayers to say, I will let my children pay 20 years from now for this facility.
So there's also, I think, one thing to really, talk about as well. We even have said, do we have the right number of community correction beds in the jail? We have heard from feedback from others who say, maybe we need 200 of the community correction step down beds in jail, and we need to have less in the Justice and Accountability Center. those kind of conversations are happening based upon looking more deeply into the population that needs to be served and the level of risk that that is involved in making sure that we have the right safety. Are you okay?
Having those conversations, I was a part of it, it's first effort.
Yeah,
I'll say it on the news, I'll see it on the website. You have a special website at slc.to, I can check that. But where are these conversations? Because again, you're asking voters in about a month to pay for it, to commit to paying for it. So I would just love to see these conversations and have a little more openness and try. I know you're here, which is the start.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But you're here in October, we'd love you to be here. August, I guess, since you just had your thing in July. And I would love to see a little more. I would love to see who are you trying to serve and what a solid plan. And I'm not saying we don't have one. I gotta go to the website and look at it.
No, I appreciate your comments.
We all, I think, don't want.
Yeah. And we want to make sure we have it right in the operation side of it too, so definitely. When
Devil's
the
in detail.
day after election day, we are feverishly going to engage in all of more conversations and welcome you to join us as part of this.
You said it, recorded.
I'm sorry.
You said it was recorded.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure of your name or your contact
Okay.
information, but if you give it to me, I'll make sure that you have the invitation to be a part of it. Yeah. And we would want to come back here too. Because I know that you guys are very concerned about these issues as well. You have a lot of thoughts, a lot of good input that would need to be considered as we're looking to implement this as well. If the voters choose to decide.
Another key factor is that your children are going to be thinking this one, you have a box with us a dysfunctional life. It will need to be replaced. That's the most big point of this. That's a little negative side.
That's a little bit paying for something. And you'd like me to vote on what that's something will be, kind of like the information about. Where the difficulty is there.
There's just pointing out that was kind of a false choice for them to say that they're either paying for this or not necessarily understanding that the cost was equal and one way.
I think it'd be a false choice to say, this is our option, and you can pay for it, or we're gonna, what is your operating option 2 months? There's 100 options, and if this is the right option, that's great, provide us with information to come to that conclusion.
Yeah. I would love to follow up with you. It sounds like some of the other information that we've had on the population served, which I didn't have as part of this, we can send your way too. Sounds like we need to follow up with you to send you some information, which we're happy to do. Yeah.
One quick question, what is the life expectancy of this Jack Center? In other words, or does that make sense? In other words, we're gonna spend $500 million on this. Is it gonna last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years?
Yeah, so the 507 million is on multiple buildings, so it's, as you saw, it's part of the jail expansion, the Justice and Accountability Center, and then also the Sheriff's Bureau. So there's 3 different pieces. So the life of each of those buildings would probably be different. We did hear from just, I think, general, maybe actually, is it the planners, like you might know the length of the life of buildings as well. I would be amiss if I said the life of any building, but I know that, the older a building is, you have deferred maintenance, and especially a jail, you need to have it very safe and make sure that you have the best of the best with that jail. Yeah.
Oxbow's built.
Yes, we do.
Oxford's about 40 years old, but Oxford's built as a very low security facility. And then it also was mothballed for a decade, which is not great for the life expectancy of the building there. So bringing it back online after it hadn't been operated, it had to just decline the control aspect of it, which is about a huge impact in the degradation of the building. Yeah, I'm just trying to assess, is this 500 million? How much time is this going to buy us? Is this, I don't know if anyone knows the answer. When are we going to spend another 500 million?
I haven't heard of when we think we'd need to spend more money, but I think that we're investing for the long term. And we feel like that's what this amount would do.
Do you have guesses about how this plan is going to impact the Jordan River Trail and how people feel about using it?
Yeah, so we actually, there's a group that has been meeting, I think you guys know for quite some time, part of that downtown safety initiative. And part of the work that has been happening there included a survey of individuals who are staying along the Jordan River talking, and the results of that really are being helped to inform to making sure that when we operationalize and have supports and keeping people off the streets and in more safe and stable environments, doing things that are going to be helpful for their lives, that we can make sure those are incorporated into the solutions, including the Justice Accountability Center and the jail as needed, but definitely getting input from people who have lived expertise, who are living, who right now are falling through the cracks to see what they need in order to be safe and to not be involved in our criminal justice system.
I respect that perspective, but I was also just thinking of the communities for which that's their closest public park space, the Fair Park neighborhood, the Glendale neighborhood. And as we know, a portion of the Jordan River Trail had to be closed this year to put on the Utah State Fair. And it would be great because of safety concerns. And it would be great if this were viewed as a solution as opposed to a further impact on. I want to think about more people exiting the system directly to the Jordan River Trail.
Oh, no, yeah, Amy, thank you, because thank you for saying that, because the whole plan would be to have less people on the streets and less people who are doing things on the streets that are harmful to our community and themselves. Yeah, I think that we are all seeing this as a solution to that, as part of the solution to that, not the only. It's going to take a lot of things, but in even the mayor's plan, looking at enforcement on drugs and crime, we're using those DEA officers. Really, that's part of it, and it's really making our communities more safe, making sure individuals, like there's many individuals who are along the Jordan River, if they are booked into jail, they're released just there too. So this is an opportunity to disrupt that and to do something different. And so, yes, I see this as a potential part of the solution, a large part of the solution to that.
I do have an answer for research scientists. Most of our buildings are built with the idea that they'll last about 50 to 60 years, not that long. It's because after that, just the difference in technological, right? And as technology advances, it becomes prohibitive to go through and update things to current standards, current best practices, and manufacturers. That's easier to care about including. Yeah, so there tends to be a rotation about every year. So they kind of predict for about 50, 60 years or something like that.
So I don't know if there's some kind of issues with sewage, but the low line is, I think, are supposed to be somewhere around 59 years or something.
Yeah. And so a certain point just becomes prohibited to go through and do necessary maintenance on those versus washing and starting over, kind of like why your car will sometimes get totaled because the parts were too much.
You don't know, we've talked about sewage.
Somehow that always comes into conversation. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you. I don't know if there's anything online, but
Not that I've received.
there's been great conversation here, so we probably covered a lot of questions that were there, but certainly they can send on any messages as well. And this isn't the last time we'll be talking to you guys, and certainly reach out as well if you feel that we haven't reached out. We want to make sure that we can communicate often about this. So if you have any questions, let us know. If you run into any other community members that do, let us know as well.
I want to give a special opportunity for you to ask questions from your area of expertise and also your policy questions, Representative Miller.
But you can also, my name is Grant, and I expect you to call it.
I just want to keep pointing out to people that you are in an elected official.
She needs to happen still.
I don't, but I think he just has to not die. Or
No, I need one of you needs to vote for me in November.
could you vote for yourself?
I can't, and I anticipate I will,
Okay.
or something
So
extraordinary.
that's
Imagine if you don't, just for ethical reasons, you spoke yourself.
And no one else does, I think they'll be telling them. I hope that doesn't happen. But no, I don't have any questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Oh, thank you guys. Thanks for the great discussion. It's obvious you care so much.
What do you wanna talk to us about, Grant? What's your deal?
Oh, no, I'm not gonna take much time at all. Thanks for putting me on the agenda. Can they hear me online? Do I have to like yell at the camera?
You could, it's,
Yeah, it's down.
it's actually
That thing,
that thing.
the ornament in the middle of the room?
Yeah,
I'm gonna be quick because everyone needs to go home to their families. My name is Grant Miller. I am the presumptive representative elect. And as you probably got from the conversation we just had a really meaningful primary. And came out of that, but the challenger of the general election withdrew, which I think is unfortunate. Because I think that representation matters. And as we just discussed, like you don't really have a democratic choice when you just have one name on the ballot. And so I think that that's disappointing. But I will be that name, so I'll also appear alongside the bond on your ballot if you live wrong here. A little bit about myself. I'm a public defender. I've been practicing in indigent defense for about 7 years. Almost my entire legal career I've dedicated to helping those who can't afford to represent themselves in the criminal justice system. At this point in my career, I do exclusively like major crimes. So I'm in the district court in West Jordan. I work on felonies. This discussion about the new jail, Jack, is particularly interesting to me. Because there's a big gap, huge gap in mental health access. It's a big reason why I got involved in my campaign. Because when you go to sentencing phase on just about any crime, you have two options. You hold someone in incarceration or you put them on probation. But what happens when someone doesn't have a place to go? What happens if someone doesn't have a place to stabilize because they've got a mental health issue or a substance abuse issue? Where's that middle level? And it doesn't exist. And so I'm happy that like the county's taking it, coming upon themselves. You bring up a lot of good points about transitional beds, like Odyssey House, First Step House, been really good about creating structure to help transition people out of the criminal justice system and into structure. And so my hope is that we continue on that trajectory. It was a big interest of mine in why I got involved in state government. Hope to continue on that. I am a freshman coming into this legislative session. As legislative session approaches, I hope that you guys will have me back. I'd love to give updates about all of the bananas stuff that happens up on Capitol Hill. I anticipate that this year is going to be no less wild than it was last year. Legislative session always seems to open with a dramatic, curtain unfolding into some wild narrative. 20% of the state legislature is turned over this year. And so a lot of policymakers that you've seen through the years aren't going to be there. And so a lot of us don't really kind of know what kind of tone or policy direction we're going to have. All I know is the majority of the legislature really hates the court system right now. So we'll see how that shakes out. Outside of that, I've got some bill files open. I'm trying to work on the margins, particularly in the nexus of criminal justice, homelessness. Also in the field of victim rights restitution. So hoping to make some progress there. I know that Ballpark Community Council has been working with my predecessor, Joel Briscoe, in the same area. I'd love to also chat with those of you involved to see how I can get assistance. Without further ado, I'm happy to answer any questions, and then I'll shut up and get out of here since I have a meeting to adjourn.
I mean, I have a question, but I almost wonder if we can take it offline, but as a representative of businesses in the ballpark.
Yeah.
We do have an interest. Joel Briscoe had started a bill last year that you're probably familiar with. It ended up falling flat, not making it through to help businesses who have been impacted by homeless, crime or just
property damage.
Property
damage, stuff like that. And just curious if you're interested in.
Yes, that's exactly what I was referring to.
Okay.
I want your card. Let's chat before I leave here. I
Yeah,
want to just touch
great.
base
We can
and
leave it at that for now.
because I'm familiar that you guys are working with Joel and didn't make it out of committee, but whatever I can do to try to
It made it out of committee, it didn't.
Didn't
pass.
pass.
on the floor.
Yeah,
Oh, well, it's got momentum. Hell, if it's got legs, let's try it.
We
Let's
were
talk.
there, we talked to the committee.
All right, well, that's educate me about how I can pick it up. So
Okay.
I want,
Yeah.
if there's something we can do to help you guys, absolutely.
Great, okay, when we're done, we'll
You bet.
keep some contact.
What's your name, man?
John Margits.
John? What?
Yeah. Great to meet you. Great to meet you.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Kind of like a different topic, but I was just wondering if you can shed any light on citizen initiated. I don't know.
Yeah, referendums.
Yeah,
Are you just asking about like what, like how we got where we are, or like what's going on right now?
yeah,
So like it's a really good question. The Utah State Constitution has a provision to allow for citizen initiative, or initiated initiatives. So the idea of just straight democracy, if people want to get something on the ballot, you circulate a petition and people can vote on it. The modern petitions that have been circulating have been consistently tweaked by the state legislature. If you remember, like marijuana, for example, medicinal marijuana was passed by initiative, and then the legislature said, okay, that's nice, we're gonna tweak a whole bunch of stuff. And so, like, what was passed by initiative was not what finally became implemented law. What happened more recently was far more political. So, Better Boundaries and League of Women Voters circulated a petition to stop gerrymandering. They created an initiative to create an independent redistricting commission, which means that like right now, our boundaries are really gerrymandered, so that way it prefers the majority party to an extreme. The initiative passed in the state of Utah, 51.49%, was close, but it passed. An independent commission was created, and they created maps that afforded Democrats a blue congressional district, and was likely going to afford blue legislative districts in the House more than the majority wanted. So the legislature said, no, none of this. We'll have an independent commission. They can make a recommendation. It won't be binding, and we're going to have our own commission with people we choose, which are, Republican friendlies. And I don't mean to be partisan, it's kind of partisan to describe the story as partisan. And of course, this new commission created by the legislature cracked the map so that way all congressional seats were solidly red, that there was no pathway for it to be otherwise, which is pretty extraordinary because only 54% of the state is Republican, not 75. And so Better Boundaries and League of Women's Voters sued. They said, we passed this initiative. You guys pretty much vetoed this law. And this is a democratically passed law. You guys vetoed it. And that should be unconstitutional. It went through the court system, went up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court in a 5-0 decision said, we agree. You can't just straight up repeal a citizen-based initiative. The legislature lost their minds. And 2 months ago, they called themselves into an emergency session over the Supreme Court ruling that they can't repeal citizen initiatives. And in order to overturn a constitutional finding by the Supreme Court, you need to install a constitutional amendment. So in this emergency session, they created a constitutional amendment that gave themselves, the legislature, the power to veto citizen initiatives and repeal them. And they added some strange language about foreign interference. And when it came time to describe how this amendment is going to be on your ballot, because in order for it to be in the Constitution, people have to vote for it, they failed to mention the veto or repeal powers and just talked about foreign interest stuff. And so once again, League of Women's Voters, Better Boundaries sued, went up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, no, you can't do this. And so now the legislature and Supreme Court are in a direct power shift. And so when I say there's going to be some drama unfolding with the legislative session here in a couple of months, and that's going to involve the judiciary, I think that there's going to be some pretty wild, legal theories and political theories to ultimately punish the Supreme Court. And I think they're going to try to figure out how to destabilize the Supreme Court would be my guess. And so that's what's going on right now. The Supreme Court is holding the line with citizen initiatives. And to give some credit or credence or some perspective, I guess, The majority party is saying that very few states actually have constitutional provisions that don't allow a legislature to tweak initiatives. So we have three other states that allow like an initiative to have democratic supremacy over a legislature. That's true. But I think there's also merit in what the founding fathers and founding mothers of the state, because we have founding mothers, intended when they drafted the Utah Constitution to give a democratic power to the people directly in the event that there was a power-hungry runaway legislature, which, I know I'm a member of that now, but I also have my opinions about.
Not that man, you need one vote.
And so that's that. Hopefully that answers your question. I know that's a really long one.
They put something on the ballot
Well,
and
so
say you don't really vote on it because the language isn't clear, or
that was it. So this amendment to give the legislature the power to veto initiatives is itself an initiative on the ballot as Amendment D. But because the way it was written was not clear at all, the Supreme Court said it's going to be on the ballot, but we're not going to count. So you will see an Amendment D. You can vote on it, but it's not going to count. But I guarantee you're going to see some variation of that again in the future, or at least I'm relatively confident.
There's like potentially noteworthy item that the legislature changed who wrote the language for the ballot initiatives this year. So before it used to be a bipartisan group of I think lawyers, and then this year they changed it so it's just like the
Speaker.
just the speaker and one other guy. It's just two people from the legislature. They just wing it, and I think that's also why it's a little bit of an Icarus situation. Constitutionality of the wording. So I guess I don't know if there's results from that other amendment, the school one, because that's a similar type thing where it's this wording is not
Yes.
somewhat exactly you think.
And I don't want to. No, that hasn't been addressed. And to jump on that real quick. There is a constitutional amendment A, which right now all state the property tax is tethered to education. And what's that? Oh, you're right. It is income tax. My mistake. Income tax tied to education. The legislature wants to untether that constitutional requirement so that way they can spend that money on other things. The legislature created a plan to kind of make a carrot to make this appealing, saying that they'll pass a bill that would increase some legislative funding temporarily. And the way they wrote the description of Constitutional Amendment A was that they're increasing funding for education and not talking about how it's fundamentally untethering income tax from education as a foundational principle of the rule. So that's being challenged in the courts. Last I checked, there was a scheduling conference to have a briefing argument. I don't know when it's coming through. In theory, it needs to happen really quickly because we're about to have that election, and whether or not Constitutional Amendment A is valid needs to be determined really soon. But I haven't heard anything about when that's set.
Where are we in terms of per pupil student funding in the nation? Are we 50 or 40?
We're 49, where we finally beat Idaho.
Yeah.
But no, for pupil funding is dismal. I was talking to Senator Todd Weiler not too long ago to see if education funding increases are going to be at all a priority in coming session. He told me that the legislature, his words are, the legislature has given a lot of funding to education recently, so I don't see that happening anytime in the future again very soon. And I thought that was very frustrating because yes, the legislature has thrown some money at education. But that's not public education, it's voucher programs. A lot of these vouchers are very, very problematic, particularly for homeschooling allotments. And there's a lot of things, I'll call it hearsay about how people are spending the money, but there's some troubling stories about how people are using these voucher allotments, particularly when there's no oversight or guidelines into how the government funds in education should be spent outside of the public school system. And that's the end of my soapbox. I'll be done. Everyone should go home.
I want to know what bills are we going to look forward to seeing your name attached to? I mean, Can you say anything
yeah,
about that?
no.
To go up on the hill.
Yeah, when we need to go, yeah, and support you.
You bet, I'd be happy to ring the bell when I'm up. So I've got a bill file open right now. Is this bill going to save the world? The answer is no. But politics is the art of the possible. So I'm trying to find entry points as a rookie Democrat to try to enter into a complicated space of criminal justice and restitution. And where I'm entering, from my experience, a lot of times my clients will owe restitution, and like a judge will also throw a fine at them. And they'll also kind of be in an indigent state where they also are experiencing homelessness, and there's no chance at all of any money ever coming to either the court system or restitution, because so much has just been thrown at them, and then they're just going to live through minor garnishments through the rest of their life. What I want to do is, if you have a fine, you're indigent, meaning you're within 150% of the poverty line, you can have an option to pay down your court fine with community service, get credit for community service against your court fine. That way, ideally, if you have capital, you can pay it towards towards restitution. You prioritize a victim in this case over the government court system. In limited circumstances. So in the 3rd district, Tooele, Salt Lake County, Summit, most judges will allow you under certain circumstances to do this, which is where this idea comes from. Now,
To pay, do community service. I forget whether it's class B or school or it's class A or severe, but there is one category at least that you are entitled to pay. Like, I'm not gonna-
well, you're not entitled. Some judges will allow you to. But it's not like a law where you can just kind of be like, oh, I'm gonna go do community service instead of paying off this fine. And particularly outside of the 3rd district, there's a lot of places that imposes fines a little bit more consistently than what we around here is more treatment based. Further out, there can be a lot more monetary considerations. The justice courts, municipal, county level courts, particularly in rural areas, use those courts as funding mechanisms for their municipalities or counties. And so if you're indigent, you can find yourself in a spiral. And so my hope is that this can kind of give something that those can kind of under the poverty level hold on to, can otherwise start to dig themselves out of the criminal justice system. It's not like the end all be all, but it's hopefully a place to start. And will hopefully kind of erode some of the more damaging ways that our criminal justice system operates. So that's what I've got open right now. I'm working on some other things, and we'll see where it goes. I don't want to open up a million bill files and then just like not have any traction. My strategy is to get 1 or 2 things going and go all in. I hope to be an effective policymaker. I don't want to go up there and just throw hand grenades and make noise. I'd much rather kind of keep my head down and try to make progress into the things I care about, into things that this community council cares about. So like, I'm starting with modest approaches. This isn't a reform the criminal justice system. This is reform a very tiny and specific aspect of the criminal justice system. And hopefully, by increments, we can start to make inroads to things that we can actually see tangible impacts for the community. At least that's my hope. And that's what you'll see. Yeah.
I have a question, and I don't know, like this is something that, like, I guess it impacts like a Ballpark community council. I don't know if it's of interest in particular here. It's like, I would be interested if your take on if there is willingness to pass some type of rent transparency law. How it's like, because that like the central Mac district specifically, I think has a lot to think about this type of issue where you have the rent, but then you have these non-negotiable add-on packages that can be like maybe 20+% of the rent, and that's like I've tried to figure that out, and you oftentimes have to call and ask. Like you have to call and ask for a specific unit, like what is it going to cost for this particular unit, and then that's what they can tell you. And then I also heard, this is like more hearsay, that like housing vouchers can be used towards rent, but not towards these other packages. Like, I don't know if that, like the details on that. So it's like, you have someone where because they can't cover a couple of periods, you can't turn these down packages, then they like get evicted. That's like a little more hearsay. I don't have like a specific example of that happening. But I don't know if there's any interest on your side, because you're just oriented, or if the Ballpark Community Council, if that's something they're like, because like are interested in. Like, because that's one thing, like, that would be interesting to see from city, like a citywide, like a statewide thing, like rental transparency, because I think it's a little misleading to see those.
You bet, man. I care about affordable housing, and particularly deeply affordable housing. Now, will you ever see a bill with my name on it regarding that? The answer is no, because to be effective, you need to go, there's some very meaningful gatekeepers on the other team. When it comes to, yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I do, in fact, know who you're talking about.
And so, when you do anything that's related to landlord tenant property, you have to very carefully navigate through some of those gatekeepers. Those tend to be the same people that are interested in keeping that domain. But once again, it's the art of the toss. And, I could go and open up a bill file and be like, we're gonna do rent control, get all this stuff. It won't go anywhere, but, each year, everyone kind of comes to the table and starts negotiating about what kind of changes we're going to see to landlord tenant policy, what we're going to see to rent control, what we're going to see to, affordable housing changes. Anyone that makes enough noise can come up there. So my hope is that as I see this come through, I want to try to notify you guys because we have germane interest in this. Let you guys know when the committee meetings are, usually happen pretty quick. But being able to get into the ears of the floor sponsor, and the primary bill drafter in the early stages is key to try to get something. You're usually not gonna get everything you want, but you can concede something if it sounds interesting. So that's my hope, to try to influence that policy.
My concern is that there have been so like the Tribune has posted articles about like when it comes to housing, things like that. My concern is that by bundling these kind of like stealth packages in, like it artificially deflates rent prices when places like the Tribune do these like web scraping operations to try and take stock of housing. It's like from an affordability standpoint, where it's like made like, and these are quite much companies like Slate. We have another developer coming here. So that's kind of like.
No, I appreciate that. That's a
Yeah,
good
kinda
point.
like, it's like, yeah, it's a little bit.
Sketchy. I appreciate you passing. Yeah, Amy, I'm not, this is your meeting. Call on yourself.
That's lame. And even that expression is terrible. But one thing that we talk often about in this community, we have zoning now that we can get a lot of dense housing options in this community. And there's been a lot of movement from the governor about, 25,000 new housing units for first-time home buyers. It's all focused on single-family homes, which hurts my soul because I believe in dense housing, but I believe in that right now in Salt Lake City, and I'm sorry, I've probably said this to you before. I say this to everybody. I can't. Right now in Salt Lake City, you can either rent or you can buy a single-family home. There's very little in between.
Right.
I feel like I got one of the last for sale townhomes in 2013 in the city, right?
Missing middle.
There's not a lot of for sale missing middle. And if people who can't afford to go straight into a single family home want to build wealth or equity, they need an opportunity to do that. Some of us may never go to a single family home, but could you may have attended, some of the people in this room may have attended the, barriers to condominium, a forum that was sponsored earlier this year at the Salt Lake Library. But, there's not firm agreement about how bad those barriers are. When I hear about those barriers to creating for sale dense housing, it seems like state level incentives could help surmount them. It seems like we want to incentivize some for sale product near our transit that's dense. Please look for those opportunities.
No, I agree that there's this habit of developers wanting to just build apartments. Because it's easier to maximize profit margins, because you just have one building that has one owner And from a corporate perspective, it's just a lot easier to track on paper. But then it cuts out people and it favors corporations, which isn't okay because this is a community council of people, not a community council of corporations.
Dino core.
No, I hope, you know, like this is.
Condos to continually rotate, all of them.
This is,
That's
I,
not.
I want to do what I can to try and influence policy. Like I said, I don't think I could just introduce a bill and expect it to make it all the way through. But the most common occupation of legislator in the state of Utah is property development. And so a lot of people have a keen interest in how we make use of land. And they're educated about it. The question is, you know, where their interests are. So I hope to work on it. I mean, I wish I had a magic wand to do everything. So one step at a time, have some patience with me as I kind of also learn the ropes. But I want to take this into consideration, everything that I can, to try to fight for every inch for this district. I hope to do. I love Ballpark. I live, well, this is Liberty Wells technically. I'm just up the street in Kensington. We have more breweries here than I think any other part of the state here in Ballpark, right? We have like
It
12.
depends whether you know, count us contiguous with South Salt Lake, but we are in Brewery Road.
Yeah, no, like this Ballpark lots. And there's a bright future, even with the whole debacle with the Millers and the Bees. I see Ballpark being the up and coming because it already is. So I'm excited, but I want to do it. Anyway, I can sit here and rant and ramble all night, and it's what, 9 o'clock?
It is 9:02.
I have like a small question for people who live here. Does anyone notice like the tap water is like slightly more breaking with full leak? Slightly or so. It's just me going crazy. Like I feel like chlorine smell is slightly stronger than usual.
I filter all of my water twice, dude.
Yeah, does anyone know? Yeah. Because my partner was like, he's like, yeah.
I'm just
Tap
happy
water.
to
Maybe it's just.
I am obligated to say, let's see, one more thing before we close the meeting. Let's see if I can do this. My Zoom brain is broke. There we go. Jeff Sandstrom, who could not be with us tonight, and we hope that he is doing okay, helped us push our bylaws revision across the finish line, and now they're signed and at the city recorder. We compressed our elections because they were supposed to start in something like August. It didn't make sense to us. We thought that they were written on the previous community council schedule where we met every other month. So we will be holding elections in December following nominations and speeches. It's not very complicated. 2 board members are up for re-election. Kevin, who is in the back of the room and waved in a friendly way, and Jeff Sandstrom, who could not be with us tonight. That's all that I have to say about that. Yay, democratic process. Legislature can smush us if they want to, so. All right. Let's all go home. Okay, good, yes.
I see.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for a very thoughtful and productive meeting.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
You're over.
Of course, have fun. There's some good data in the back.